Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to my channel. My name is Paul, the Canadian Snowman, back here once again with some more Ottoman War. It's been a few days. Haven't posted any videos the past couple days. It's been a busy week for me. Did a lot of Halloween stuff. I hope you guys had a great Halloween. If you celebrated, I did. Kids loved it. But anyway, I apologize if it looks like I have like black eyes. I've had face paint on the last couple days. I was the Crow, and then I was the Joker, and then the paint's not coming off my eyes, so that's why my eyes look kind of dark, if you notice. But anyways, guys, it's been a few days. We're going to do a great siege of Malta, 1565. Excited to get back into this series. Like I said, it's been a few days. Also see that you guys definitely been letting me know that geography of Switzerland has dropped, so I'll definitely be getting to that. Yeah, let's get into this. If you're new here, definitely check out more of the Ottomans, more on my playlist and geography. I do every country in the world, at least up until Switzerland, alphabetical order. So yeah, let's jump into it. Before we do, please hit that like and subscribe button below. And yeah, let's get into this. Screen. Great siege of Malta. Well, we had a lot of sieges, so this is a great siege. So let's see how great it is.
Although the Ottoman Sultan Suleiman I fought countless foes across Europe, Asia and Africa, his reign is symbolically bookended by the struggle against the Knights Hospitaller. One of the most successful reigns in the history of the Ottoman Empire began with the taking of Rhodes in 1522, and the end of it would see Suleiman and his admirals taking on the Knights Hospitaller in their new home of Malta in 1565. Shout out to Skillshare for sponsoring this video. Skillshare is an online learning. It's less than $10 a month. Through our link, we'll get the first 2 months of premium membership for, or the link in the description.
I'm not sure where Malta. Well, I guess I'm going to find out where Malta is, right?
The last naval action in the Ottoman Wars we covered was the Battle of Preveza and the Siege of Castelnuovo, and after these engagements, Ottoman dominance in the Mediterranean, spearheaded by Hayreddin Barbarossa, was near undisputed. Barbarossa captured a few more cities in modern-day Montenegro, capping off.
Hold on a second. I'm going to make sure I'm actually on the right video here. Great Siege of Malta. That's what I'm supposed to be on. Because last one was, yeah, Buddha. Okay. I'm in the right video. I want to make sure I wasn't skipping a video. Okay, I'm on the next playlist. Okay. Because they didn't say Edgar and Buddha in this video. They didn't, you know.
Barbarossa captured a few more cities in modern-day Montenegro, capping off the campaign of 1539 by conquering Christian strongholds in the Ionian and Aegean seas. The admiral then returned to the Ottoman capital, sending his chief lieutenant, a veteran of Preveza, Turgut Reis, known to the Christians as Dragut, to the western Mediterranean seas to raid and harass the Holy League members.
Okay.
Initially, Dragut's raids were successful, and he managed to sack coastal areas in Sicily, Spain and Corsica in 1540. However, in June he was ambushed by the allied Genoese-Spanish army at Girolata. His entire fleet was captured, while Dragut was taken hostage and brought to Genoa. Meanwhile, Venice, reeling from its losses, signed a separate peace with the Ottomans, and that somewhat weakened the position of the Emperor Charles V. According to some sources, in September of 1540 he sent a secret letter to Barbarossa offering him a chance to change sides, but this was refused. This prompted the Emperor to become more active in his naval dealings. To that end, in October, another Ottoman Corsair navy under Ali Hamid, which was raiding off the coast of Spain, was destroyed near Alboran.
Yeah.
It was becoming clear that the Ottoman holdings in North Africa would remain an easy staging ground for the invasions of Spain and Italy, so Charles decided to conquer the region. The Algiers expedition of 1541 was led by Charles himself, with the likes of Andrea Doria, the Duke of Alba, and the conqueror of the Aztec Empire, Hernán Cortés, commanding his 40,000-strong army. The Beylerbeylik of Algeria was at that point ruled by another lieutenant of Barbarossa, Hassan Aga, who had just around 1,000 soldiers. Unfortunately for the Christian troops, the weather conditions were unusually cold for October, with rains and storms damaging their fleet. Still, Charles's army managed to disembark and besiege Algiers. Almost immediately, the Christians were attacked by the Ottoman Berber allies. The mobile Berber horsemen engaged Charles every time he attempted an assault. All this made the siege untenable, and in November, Charles ordered a retreat.
There you go.
He had lost almost half of his army to the Berbers and the sea during this expedition.
Damn.
As the French king Francis I, who was an Ottoman ally since 1536, started another Italian war against his arch-rival Charles V, Suleiman sent Barbarossa's fleet to assist the French in the Ligurian and Tyrrhenian Sea. In 1543, he raided his way.
That's right, the French, Ottomans are, they're allies, and I always find it's so interesting, like who are allies and who are not. Like some situations, it seems like, why are you guys allies, or why are you guys fighting against each other? It doesn't seem to make much sense, but I guess it does.
Along the Tyrrhenian Sea. In 1543, he raided his way along the west coast of Italy, landing near Rome by the end of June. With the Holy City threatened, the Pope called for Francis I to rein in his allies, and the king asked Barbarossa to join his troops at Marseille. The Allied forces besieged and sacked the city of Nice in August of 1543.
Yeah.
Barbarossa would winter in Toulon, sending his ships to raid the Spanish coast during the end of the year. In the beginning of 1544, he resumed raiding Italy, and then anchored his fleet near Genoa, threatening to attack it. We don't know all the details, but Barbarossa and his old foe Andrea Doria negotiated the release of Dragut for a sizable sum, and that ended the hostilities between the Ottomans and Genoa. As Suleiman and Charles all
Doria's he's hanging out, he's been a big foe in these wars, and he's still chilling.
Also signed a truce between the Ottomans and Genoa. As Suleiman and Charles also signed a truce in 1544, Barbarossa was recalled back to the capital. Still, on his way home, he sacked and looted numerous Italian cities. Hayreddin Barbarossa died in 1546, and Dragut, who had been raiding the coasts of Italy and Spain since his release, was appointed the commander of the Ottoman navy by Suleiman. Previously, we have covered the endless slogging match between the Ottomans and the Habsburgs in Hungary. Since no tangible progress was made on that front, the Ottoman Sultan was looking for other ways to continue his conquests, and since
I'm glad they brought that up, because I don't know, it seemed like they jumped to this, like last we left off, there were like sieges and everything going on over here, and we just jumped back to the water, and kind of glad they kind of brought that up, and he's like, he had enough of this battle, like he wasn't getting nowhere, so he figured he'd go conquer in other places that may not be as hard. I'm definitely glad they pointed this out.
The Ottoman Sultan was looking for other ways to continue his conquests, and since he had dominance on the seas, Malta seemed to be a good springboard for that. Charles, who also understood the importance of the island, gave it to the Knights Hospitaller in 1530, alongside Gozo and Tripoli. From here, the Hospitallers restarted their corsair activity against Ottoman interests, and by 1550, they once more had become profound nuisances to Suleiman. So it is not a surprise that Dragut was tasked with eradicating the Hospitaller presence in the region.
There's almost like a little Rhodes, it's just, like I said, a nuisance. It's in the middle of, the sea, and as long as basically the Christians have a foothold there or control it, they can kind of mess with the Ottomans coming and going. So kind of like Rhodes, you kind of have to take it down to, so you don't have that nuisance, around. Anyways.
In 1551, he struck the knights at their doorstep, ravaging the island of Gozo and enslaving nearly its entire population. However, he was repelled by the knights after trying to take the much more heavily fortified Malta. Following up, Dragut seized the knights' garrison in Tripoli and used it to launch raids. Over the next few years, Dragut managed to occupy parts of the Balearic Islands and Corsica, which prompted a Christian counterattack. In 1560, the knights joined the Spanish crown, Venice, Genoa and others in an alliance to retake Tripoli from the Ottomans. However, their fleet was attacked by Dragut at the Battle of Djerba and was decisively defeated.
Damn.
The alliance lost dozens of ships and at least 15,000 troops, which meant that there was now a power vacuum that the Ottomans could exploit. It was obvious that Dragut would soon strike at Malta.
Why are dental companies lobbying to make this toothbrush
Dang
illegal in the
commercials.
U.S.? This U.S. Army dentist.
Yeah, but now he doesn't have to worry about, the Christians, bringing their ships and attacking him while he's taking Malta. So now I guess they figure we got this island all to ourselves to attack. We don't have to worry about outside forces coming to stop us, at least anytime soon. So here we go.
The knights knew better than anyone that an attack was coming, and began diligently preparing their defences. Back in 1557, the knights had elected a crafty Frenchman to be their Grand Master, Jean Parisot de la Valette. Under La Valette, the knights replenished their fleet that had been devastated at Djerba. They began bolstering
Frenchmen, huh? Aren't like Ottomans in cahoots with the French? Like, I guess all, you're getting hired by someone, doesn't matter if you're French or not, right? I mean, because all the French are on the Ottoman side, especially, if you're getting paid enough, you'd be on anyone's side, pretty much, right? This is his job.
bolstering the defences of that had been devastated at Djerba. They began bolstering the defences of Malta's three principal forts, St. Angelo, St. Elmo and St. Michael. Most importantly, the knights embarked on a renewed spree of piracy. Their boldness at sea dealt many humiliating blows to the Turks, as the knights managed to capture the Ottoman governors of Alexandria and Cairo. These strikes only expedited Suleiman's resolve to obliterate the Knights of Malta. To spearhead the assault on Malta, Sultan Suleiman appointed his trusted vizier, Mustafa Pasha, as the commander of his armies. Alongside him was Admiral Piali Pasha and Dragut. Most sources put the total strength of the Ottoman army at around 40,000 men. Among them there were 9,000 Sipahis and 6,300 elite Janissaries, with the rest made up by the North African troops and Dragut's corsairs. Grandmaster La Valette continued to rigorously prepare his defences in anticipation of the Turkish arrival. All the buildings outside the walled citadels in the island's great harbour were destroyed to eliminate cover for sharpshooters. The local peasants were ordered to harvest all their crops and bring them within the fortress walls, leaving the land barren for the invaders, while additional supplies were brought in from nearby Sicily. Believing the Ottoman...
Yeah, the element of surprise, there was no element of surprise. So yeah, they're going to be fortified in there. They're going to have, they're not going to have to be worried about being starved out. That's going to be on the Ottomans' concerns because they have nothing left to land. So they're going to have all this food shipped in to feed all those soldiers. This is kind of the way all these forts and stuff are. This is definitely different. It's not like just one island and they got to surround it. Like there's a lot of things to take into account here. Interesting.
Ottomans would attempt to land at Birgu first. La Valette had its citizens evacuated to the inland town of Medina. Only around 500 knights defended Malta. Supplementing their ranks were 3,000 Maltese militia. The native islanders had no love for the knights, who they saw as foreign oppressors, but they were devout Catholics nevertheless, and would fervently defend their ancestral home against an Islamic foe. On April 9th, help arrived in the form of 1,000 professional Spanish and Italian Habsburg soldiers sent by Don Garcia de Toledo, Viceroy of Sicily.
Nice.
Don Garcia informed La Valette he was rallying more reinforcements, but they were months away, during which time Malta would have to stand alone.
But at least that's makes you feel good. Okay, like we're not alone here. Like there is help on the way. We just have to hold out. Like you got enough food there probably to last a good while. So as long as you hold out and fight strong, like you'll have reinforcements, and the morale of the Ottomans will go down. Hopefully they'll leave after enough time. So they're definitely prepared. They're definitely not being taken by surprise. They're prepared. And the Ottomans in for a giant fight, man. Like usually when people are who are about to be sieged or prepared like that, it's hard to take them. They're gonna have to take like multiple walls down or something, because I don't know who. I have no idea who wins this, but this is gonna be crazy.
The Great Turkish Fleet came within view of the islands on the 18th of May 1565 and sailed up the southern coast. There, the Ottoman Armada landed their galleys 7 miles south of the Knights' Great Harbour, establishing a beachhead. From their newly established position, the Turkish army pushed inland towards Birgu, during which time they were harried by the knights fighting in a guerrilla-style struggle. Nevertheless, the invaders reached the inland walls of the Great Harbour citadels. They had established their great cannons on Santa Margherita and Mount Scriberas, strategic hills that looked down upon the Great Harbour. On May 21st, Piali Pasha ordered an assault upon Birgu. This was repelled by a regiment of Spanish soldiers.
Oh, yeah.
The next day saw the Turkish host throw themselves upon Senglia, once again making little headway into the ardently defended citadel.
I guess they're just kind of like trying to just check things out, just get a close look on like how defended they are and how how strong the walls are, kind of thing. You're just kind of testing the waters, I guess. Because I had no doubt that they'd be denied. I just think they're trying to look for weaknesses, I guess.
Following this, the Turkish leadership argued over their forward course. Mustafa wished to strike inland and take poorly defended Medina, thereby dealing a blow to Christian morale, while Piali Pasha insisted that taking Fort St. Elmo was crucial to victory. In the end, the latter path was chosen, and the Ottoman garrison at Mount Scriberas began wheeling their artillery towards the landward wall of the coastal fortress, guarded by the lion's share of the Janissary Corps. Lavalette's spies informed him where the Ottomans intended to strike. He dispatched 150 knights to bolster the defenders there. Emboldened by the sluggish movement,
I guess I'm surprised, or not surprised, that maybe just leave a couple of ships in here just to kind of keep eye on things, of movements or whatnot. It's just like a handful of Ottoman ships just along here. I guess maybe they weren't too worried about the back and forth here.
Of the Ottoman artillery, the knights within St. Elmo sallied out and engaged the convoy in a skirmish. Both sides took losses, but the Ottoman advance was not slowed. By May 24th, the Turkish diggers had established trenches a mere 600 paces from the fortress walls, with 3 rows of artillery behind them, comprised of light cannon and culverins in the front and great basilisk bombards in the rear. Thus the shelling began. Ottoman cannons pulverized the walls of St. Elmo with shattering force, pinning the defenders within and leaving them helpless to strike back at their assailants. Lavalette watched the proceedings from his perch in St. Angelo and ordered his gunners to fire across the harbour at the Ottoman cannon.
Oh, wow.
This had a devastating effect, causing chaos amongst Turkish ranks, even causing a loose rock to strike Piali Pasha unconscious, leading many of his men to believe he was dead. This symphony of gunfire continued throughout the day. When night fell, it became clear that the Ottomans would inevitably breach the fortress walls. The commander of St. Elmo begged Lavalette to allow his men to abandon their post and fall back to St. Angelo. The Grand Master refused, knowing that he had to buy as much time as possible until reinforcements arrived. He declared that St. Elmo must hold for as long as possible. The following days saw fighting renew once more. By now, Ottoman sharpshooters had trained their sights on the gunners in St. Angelo, keeping them pinned down and providing cover for their cannoneers. By May 29th, Ottoman sappers had begun digging.
Damn, so how far they're, like a couple hundred yards or something? You know, a couple hundred meters from one side to the other side. I'm kind of curious exactly how the distance here between the two. Definitely interested. The dynamics of this siege are definitely pretty crazy because you have all these little fortresses around, and I don't know. It's like very. I mean, I guess these guys, if they can get away from the range of the cannons over here by the knights, and we go more along the coastline. I don't know, but yeah, definitely a lot of factors to look into here.
Covered trenches towards St. Elmo's walls, seeking to undermine them at their foundations. That evening, 2 companies of Spanish soldiers sallied out of the fort under the cover of darkness and launched a surprise raid upon the undefended Ottomans who had been digging through the night.
Damn!
Many trench diggers were massacred, but the Janissaries quickly arose from their sleeping tents and rallied themselves with professional speed. The Sultan's elite soldiers drove the Spaniards back behind their pulverized walls. They were close enough to the walls to look their enemies right in the eyes. On June 2nd, Dragut finally arrived with his fleet of 13 galleys and 1,500 fighting men.
Oh wow.
Up until this point, the knights had been sailing nimble ferries across the harbour under the cover of night to provide St. Elmo with fresh supplies from Sicily. Dragut's first course of action was to establish new artillery batteries on Gallows Point and across from Mosamshet harbour, putting him in a position to fire upon any supply ships, further isolating St. Elmo from the rest of the island.
Wow.
However, on June 9th, a detachment of knightly cavalry from Medina launched an ambush upon the Ottoman gunners at Gallows Point, temporarily scattering them and allowing supply ferries to relieve St. Elmo once more. On June 3rd, a Janissary offensive managed to surmount the fortress's triangular ravelin. From there, they built ramps of wood and hide to ascend into St. Elmo's inner walls. The knights, Spaniards and Maltese would hold the breach, dealing upon the Ottomans hundreds of casualties. Ottoman infantry threw themselves.
I mean, they have to. There's nowhere to run. Like, if they have a big open field here where they can just like save themselves, like they've been trying to get out of here with all these messages going back and forth, and to no good. So they know they're on their own. They know it doesn't matter what they do, they have to stand firm. So, which is probably a good reason why the Ottomans took a bunch of losses here, or else these guys might have been, more trying to save themselves more and trying to get out of there. Let's just see if they push in.
Themselves upon the rubble on June 10th, 15th and 16th, but were repelled all 3 times, with contemporary reports claiming that the native Maltese fought with nearly as much bravery as the knights themselves.
Wow.
Each day the fortress held out bought infinitely valuable time for the defenders in St. Angelo and St. Michael, enabling them to further shore up their own defences and wait for the ever closer arrival of Don Garcia and his relief force.
But this just makes like if they're losing all these men at Fort St. Elmo, and they're not even at the meat of Malta over here, man. Because this is supposed to be, not an easy takeover, but something that they need to do, and they're having a lot of trouble over here. And if it's that much trouble to take this fort, man, it's probably going to be like 10 times worse to get this big bad boy down here. So let's see.
In many ways, St. Elmo and the lives within were willingly sacrificed so the rest of Malta could be saved. On June 17th,
yeah, they're being sacrificed because no one's come to save them. And where they're going to retreat, they can't just, if they give up, they're just going to get massacred by the Ottomans anyway, probably. So you have nothing to lose. You might as well go down fighting instead of being just, sitting back and getting massacred,
Dragut was mortally wounded in the Turkish trenches. Sources do not agree if it was friendly fire from Ottoman cannonball shrapnel or a Maltese sharpshooter from St. Angelo, but in any case, the legendary Corsair was taken out of action.
Wow.
By June 22nd, the Janissaries had completed a bridge across the fortress ditch, allowing the bulk of the Ottoman troops to directly assault the walls from all sides. The defenders held out for one final night, but on June the 23rd, they were finally overwhelmed by sheer numbers and Turkish sharpshooters raining bullets on them from the Ravelin. The Knights of St. Elmo and their allies died fighting almost to a man.
Dang.
That same day, Dragut succumbed to his injuries and passed away.
Jeez. Good
The capture
fight,
of
though.
St. Elmo was ultimately a Pyrrhic victory for the Ottomans. They had lost over 6,000 men and over half of their Janissary corps, compared to the 1,500 defenders slain. The siege had taken 3 weeks, and Don Garcia's relief force grew ever closer. By June 4th, Piali Pasha had ordered the cannons surrounding St. Elmo to be dragged before the walls of Senglia. A new wave of bombardment ensued, focused upon Fort St. Michael. Meanwhile, the Turks had run their smaller vessels ashore and carried them inland across the base of Mount Scriberis and into the creek on the westward side of Senglia, bypassing the cannons of St. Angelo. On June 15th, the Ottomans commenced a two-pronged attack. 1,500 corsairs attacked Senglia from land, while 1,000 Janissaries attempted an amphibious assault. Luckily, a Greek deserter had warned La Valette of Mustafa's plan, and the knights had built a palisade of spikes across the inlet to prevent an Ottoman sea landing. They had also set up a battery on the seaward wall, which rained fire upon the Turkish landing craft, drowning hundreds.
Wow.
Concurrently, the landward assault was repelled as well, and still, Malta refused to fall.
Man, like I said, I just get by a bunch of spies, like, you know, in the Ottoman camp here, you know, sending out messages like, wow, they're like, these little, like, secret messages they're finding out, man, are huge, like, game changers. But, man, the Knights are holding out here in Malta. They're holding up. They're doing a good job.
Cannon fire continued to be exchanged by both sides in the following days, but the next big engagement came on August 7th, when Mustafa Pasha ordered a full-scale invasion. 12,000 men charged the walls of Senglia and Birgu,
Damn.
with the full brunt of Turkish artillery pummeling the defenders into submission. The situation soon grew dire. Birgu's walls were soon reduced to rubble, and Ottoman soldiers found themselves able to charge over the debris. Heavy fighting ensued within the city streets, and as the Turks pushed deeper, it seemed that the harbour would finally fall. And yet, Malta was once more saved by sheer luck. A contingent of 100 Spanish and knightly cavalrymen sailing out of Medina happened to catch the Ottoman camp unguarded. They swept down upon it, slaughtering the sick, incinerating tents and destroying supplies. When news of this spread to the Ottomans in Birgu, they panicked. Believing a much larger relief force had finally arrived, they retreated from the city walls back to their camp. The day was won for the knights.
Wow.
By now, morale amongst the Ottoman ranks was at an all-time low. Furthermore, the death of Dragut had thrown their leadership off kilt, as Piali Pasha and Mustafa were now at constant loggerheads with one another, causing further schisms in the army. Back in Constantinople, the Sultan had become very displeased with the siege's sluggish pace and sent multiple letters to Mustafa demanding a progress report.
Jeez.
The Ottomans' will to keep up the fight had quickly waned. At the turn of the month, Mustafa ordered a march upon Medina, only to have cannonballs fired at him from out of range. To the Turks, it appeared that Medina had plenty of ammunition to spare. In reality, it was a desperate bluff performed by a highly unprepared city. Nevertheless, it worked. Mustafa lost his nerve and ordered a retreat.
Damn.
On September 7th, Malta's salvation finally arrived. After months of delay, Don Garcia had landed with a relief force of 8,000 men. On seeing this force,
Oh, man. So, look at that. The Ottomans had their chance. You know, they broke the city walls, and that was 100 men attacking the camp. man, talking about like big things that just change a war, a battle, man, that's huge because they were like, okay, wow, they took this. That means, you know, it's going to be like a domino effect. They're going to take it all. And now it's a total opposite effect. Now it looks like Ottomans are on their heels now and everything is going right for the Christians. So that I don't, especially with the backup, I don't see how the Ottomans get out of this or take it over now. I think it's going to be more on get out of here with your lives now, since we have all this backup coming in.
Of course, the Ottomans finally lost their resolve and retreated back to their ships.
There you go.
Some zealous knights, emboldened by their reinforcements, charged down the retreating Turks, forcing the relief force to join them in a general charge that saw hundreds of fleeing soldiers massacred.
Wow.
By September 13th, the Ottoman army had fully departed from Malta. The defenders had lost 2,500 soldiers and a third of the island's population, while the Ottomans had suffered at least 10,000 casualties, with some sources estimating them as high as 30,000. Ultimately, the Knights of St. John had emerged as the final victor. The importance of the Great Siege of Malta cannot be understated. It is impossible to know what would have happened should the island have fallen, but it is very possible that the Ottoman Empire could have expanded into Italy and then deeper into Western Europe. The Ottomans had lost battles before, but even their famous defeats at Vienna and Eger came at the tail end of a spree of conquests. Still, the Ottoman wars were far from over, and we will cover every major conflict until 1923, so make sure you are subscribed to our channel and have pressed the bell button.
We're going up to 1923? Holy crap, we got like 400 more years to go. Jeez, man, these wars, wow. I'm mind blown how, I mean, the Ottomans, man, they're, whoo, like, their empire, man, goes long and strong. But yeah, that battle was definitely very fascinating on like all the different, you know, every time I see a siege, I hear about a siege, you know, I just figure, you know, there's a castle, there's the walls, and that's it. You know, we don't really think about some places like Malta where there's just basically a whole bunch of little castles and forts around, and you know, the waterways, and just the thought of like, how do you go about attacking this fortress? You know, like, where do you start? And, you know, is that the right way to do things? It is kind of fascinating, like, where they chose to start off as. Maybe, like, would things have been different if they would just start off at the main, like, just take them, don't worry about, I forget, there's a Fort Elmo or something over there. Don't worry about that side of the water. Just go for the main prize right there. If things could have been different, you know, a bunch of what ifs, right? But anyway, yeah, definitely really cool. Now they have to head home, and I guess, you know, you gotta wait. You know, with these big sieges, and you lose so many men. If you lose, well, I guess you win too, but like the momentum stops. And you kind of have to wait, it seems like, for another like generation to go by to basically repopulate yourself, to send more men onto the next campaign, the next war, the next battle. Because, you know, where do you get the men from? I guess they have a giant empire, so I'm sure there's always there's always places to get men from. Well, that's a lot of men to lose. But anyways, let me know your thoughts below in the comments. Like, share, whatever, subscribe, please. And yeah, we'll continue, and definitely keep a lookout for, I guess, you know, Switzerland geography now, and because I'll be continuing to do that series until I've done every country in the world, and then some other stuff. So I appreciate you guys watching. Hope you guys, like I said, hope you guys had a great Halloween. Have a great day, great night, and I'll definitely catch you guys in future videos. Always a blast, and peace. I am out of here.